YouTube, and I'm going to start recording now.
Okay.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're all set. Okay, this is the Planning Commission meeting for the month of November on the 18th. Is now called to order. I'll read the no anchor site letter. The Planning Commission Chair of the Town of Hideout hereby determines that conducting a meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location, pursuant to Utah Code Section 52-4-207, subsection 5, and Hideout Town Ordinance 2020-03. The facts upon which this determination is based include the 7-day rolling percent number of positive COVID-19 cases in Utah has been over 17.75% of those tested since November 2nd, 2021. 7-day average number of positive cases has been on average 1,649 per day since November 7th, 2021. Okay, this meeting will not have a physical anchor location. All participants will connect remotely. All public meetings are available via YouTube live stream and on the Hideout Utah YouTube channel. That being said, we will now take the roll call. Okay. Glynis? Are you here?
Here.
Ryan? Bruce?
Here.
Just,
Tony's
excuse me,
here.
Tony. Ryan
Yes?
emailed to say that he's not attending tonight. He had a conflict.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Donna? And Rachel?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that being said, has everybody had a chance to go over the minutes from last month?
Yes.
I
Does
did.
anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions regarding them? Or
Yeah,
want to
the
make
only
any
question-
changes?
No, I already submitted my changes, but I wondered what changes you made, Thomas. It was to the post section,
Oh, there were just a couple of corrections in the post section. Yeah.
because I
just,
didn't really, I mean, I didn't compare the two, but I didn't really see a lot different, so.
No, it was, they were very minor corrections just in terms of trying to remember exactly. It was how something was presented and I just clarified something. That was it.
Okay. Since only two of us who were at the 3-person meeting are here, can we go ahead and approve them tonight, or do we have to wait till Ryan comes?
You can, the other members can rely on your certification that it's as what was said. It's okay, you can still vote.
Okay, thank you. And then that being said, then do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, and second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, so Glynis, your vote?
Aye.
Bruce?
Yes.
And I will abstain because I did not attend last month. Okay, thank you, folks. And the first thing on the agenda for public, that's open for public hearing, is the review and possible recommendation to the town council regarding the final Lakeview Estates subdivision. Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically this has already been approved once, and it just didn't, they just didn't put in for the extension in time, correct?
That's correct. And so if
But it does have to meet the new standards going forward, doesn't it?
because this one was vested under the old code, it does have to meet the new code. So I'll walk through a couple of the new code items. But when this was approved was about a month. This was in October of 2020, and you adopted the new code in 2021. Nate, the developer, worked really closely with us, despite the fact that he didn't have to meet the new code at that time. He did do everything in his power to meet the new code at that time. And he actually did meet the new code. And I'll walk through a couple of items that we just wanted to confirm as we did a recheck of the new code.
Thank you.
Sure. So again, as the chairman noted, this was a project that was approved back in October 8th of 2020. It is Lakeview Estates for 69 lots. These are all individual single-family houses, no townhouses. The developer unfortunately did not get the project, the subdivision recorded within the 6-month period, nor ask for the extension. So as a result, is going through preliminary and final approval with you all. Because this project was approved prior to the new code adoption, there were a few items that we wanted to make sure he met in terms of the new code. I've outlined those on the bottom of the page you see and the following page, but in a nutshell, we wanted to make sure that he met the open space standard. He more than exceeds the open space standard, where it would be required for, 20%, hang on a second, sorry. Well, I've got some density calculations in here. Let me back up. So with regard to density, he does meet the RMD density requirements. His property was rezoned by the council. And so in terms of zoning, he is vested as zoning RMD, and he does meet the density requirements. As you can see in there, there are some requirements for setbacks and building heights, et cetera. Those are what the zone requires. And you can see that it's 42 feet or 3.5 stories for building height. In just a second, I'll walk through some deed restrictions that were put on this property that actually tightened that up a little bit to make those requirements more in line with residential single-family development. As I walk down to the next section, there's the monotony clause. That is part of the new code that was not included in the old code, which maintains that major subdivisions should not have more than 20% of the structures with the same elevations, colors, et cetera. Nate is working with us. There's a design review committee set up to ensure that there is a variety of design, and he will meet that standard. I think that both Ryan and Dylan are on, but with regard to the roads and road requirements, Nate did agree to the 26 feet pavement width for this development. Again, even though that was not the requirement of the old code, that is in line with the new code. I'll let Dylan and or Ryan confirm that. And then the second one below that is for drainage and stormwater facilities. Nate is also meeting the new requirements for those. Dylan or Ryan, are you guys on?
I am here.
Okay.
And I yes, that's correct. We had talked about the road standards would likely be passed and retroactive for health, safety, welfare. And so they were part of the plan and they do comply with the current code.
Okay. And then the next one is with regard to public open space, public space, and requirement of 2.07 acres for this subdivision would meet the new code. We didn't have a requirement in the old code. As I totaled up all three phases here, you'll see that Nate has approximately 8.5 acres of open space in this area, not including the stormwater retention basin, which doesn't count per the new code. So he meets the requirement for open space. I won't go through the planning conditions and the engineering conditions that were put in place by Planning Commission and then ultimately Town Council, but those are still applicable and the applicant agrees to meet those conditions. As I said, there's nothing that has changed in terms of the layout or design for this subdivision.
And Thomas, can I add into, or maybe about to talk about the deed restrictions? Because
that's the very last item, yeah.
Okay, I'll hold off because they also had the whatever you called it, for the facade variation, there was a requirement in there as well that they have to meet.
Okay, for this, the step backs or the alternating facades? Yeah, okay. So if you take a look at that last paragraph right before the recommendation, you'll note that there were deed restrictions recorded on this property. So when it was rezoned to residential medium density, that was to allow the additional density in this development. That's what council proposed, and that's what they did. So that the residential medium density zone is the base zoning for this district. But at the time, there were some concerns about heights, building heights, et cetera. And so they recommended that the density was okay, but they wanted to maintain the 35-foot building height that was applicable for residential single-family zoning, not the 42 that is applicable to the residential medium density zoning. So the town council implemented some deed restrictions for the Lakeview subdivision. So those would still be applicable. Where it gets a little difficult is there were a number of retaining walls in this development as proposed. We worked closely with Nate and his designers to eliminate a number of retaining walls and reduce the scale of a number of other retaining walls, those that would exist, that would remain. And so as part of that, the setbacks for the front setbacks for the units were reduced from, I think it was, I have it in here, I think at 35 or 30 and 35 feet to, I think it goes now to 25 feet and 20 feet for the front setbacks. That reduction in front setback that would violate the deed restrictions. So part of the recommendation by Planning Commission tonight would be we recommend a favorable recommendation for the subdivision to council, but also to note that the applicant would have to take the deed restrictions back to council to amend a couple of those deed restrictions to be in compliance with this, because right now it's out of compliance. And I think that's it. I know that gets a little complicated, but the deed restrictions are something that can be done by council when they review the subdivision. It is worth noting that council actually recommended a reduction in the deed restrictions when they approved the subdivision, but Polly and I felt that that should be formalized, an amendment to the deed restrictions, because that will run with the property. Do you have any questions?
No, so just to clarify it, Thomas, then we're looking either to give it a positive recommendation or a negative, with the caveat that the town council basically
Amend the
changes
deed restrictions to
deed.
comply with this new, with the final subdivision.
Okay,
Yeah, it was recommended by both myself and the town engineers. It's a good solution that eliminated a number of retaining walls, so it's got full support of everyone. But just as a formality, we should tidy up the deed restrictions.
okay.
And Thomas, if you could refresh us on just what there were really big 20, 30-foot walls, and now what are the maximum size walls that will be down there now?
I think the tallest one, I think Nate Brockbank is on the Zoom call, so he can help answer, and so can Ryan or Dylan. But I think we had some that were nearing 14, and I think we're now down to like 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 is the highest one, I think.
Most of them are under 10 feet. I think there's a couple places where it gets up to 12 and 2 terraces. But before there were some, I believe it was 30 feet, 3 10-foot walls and 4 in place,
Back to back.
so 35 or something. So it was a drastic reduction.
Yeah, that's what I remember. And are there multiple 10 or 12-foot walls, or is it just down to the one wall now between the
I
different?
believe the walls that exceed that 10 feet, I think it's just in that one spot for a fairly short distance. There are a number of walls that are in the 5 to 7 foot, or 3 to 7 foot range, but I think there's only the one wall above 10 feet.
Is it, so the road, there's one road out, or the road is already in. So so we're kind of approving something that's already been done?
Well, this
Yeah.
was approved by both planning commission and town council. And so there was some infrastructure, horizontal infrastructure work that is started that is a bit at risk, but it was started because everything had been approved by the town council and the planning commission.
So I guess just a little history. Yeah, as Thomas said, it was approved and then they got a construction permit. Instead of recording the plat, they chose to build at risk. And before recording the plat, the time allotted expired. And so that's why it's back here is they didn't, we didn't get the extension or they didn't get the extension. And so it's back here for a reapproval, but they had all the approvals at the time they started construction.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions by the commissioners for Thomas or Patty? Okay, there being none, we will now open this for public comment. If anybody has any questions from the public.
One thing, this is Nate Brockbank. Can I
Go ahead.
Can I
Nate.
speak? Okay. One thing that was not brought up is we agreed to do single-story houses on, I think, Thomas, it's lot 1 or 223 and 224 maybe. So we
Yes.
wouldn't block the views of that home in Deer Waters.
It's on lots 224 and 225, and that's noted in the conditions. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just wasn't talked about, so I just wanted
Nope. Thanks for
to say
bringing that
that.
up.
Thank you.
Okay, there being no other public comment, we will close the public comment part for this.
It looks like somebody is waiting in the waiting room. Is that the case?
Thomas, can you see?
Here, I'm looking. Hang on.
I don't see that on my end.
I don't either.
I see 1801 and a bunch of stars, 252 entered the waiting room. And
Oh.
it
They're
says,
actually-
do I want to admit?
They're actually in.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
But
just
if
wanted to make
they-
sure.
Yeah, if they do want to make a comment, if they could push *9 on their phone to raise their hand, and then we'll ask them to unmute.
Is it *9 on the computer and *6 on the phone? I forget.
It's *9 on their phone to raise hand,
Okay.
and then I have to give them permission to unmute.
Okay. And then on the computer, just click the icon at the bottom of your screen, of course.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. I always got that mixed up.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry,
That
sorry,
being said,
Tony.
there be no other public comments. We will close this part. And then I will ask any of the commissioners if they want to put this to a vote or bring a motion.
Sure. I move that we approve. Okay, I can't remember the name of the development. Lakeview phase. Is it just one phase or two phases?
There are 3 phases associated with this, but I think
So
recommend all 3 phases for the 69 lots.
Okay, that's me.
all 3 phases with the caveat that the town council takes a look at and amends the deed restrictions to meet the new requirements.
And you're actually not approving, you are making a recommendation to council.
Making a recommendation.
Making a recommendation to council to approve. Thank you.
Okay, can I get, Bruce, do you want to second that? Okay, then we'll put it to a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Tony's a yes. Okay, that being said, we'll move on to number 2, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, basically the
yes.
same thing.
Donna's here.
Donna's here.
Yay.
And
Donna.
Rachel's
Okay,
here,
thank
too.
you, Donna.
Yeah, Rachel too.
Oh, I'm
Rachel is
sorry,
your alternate
Rachel.
is here. That's right.
Yes.
I apologize, Rachel.
Okay.
Then correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas. Item number 2 is basically the same thing, only pertaining to Deer Waters, the Phase 4 subdivision.
That is correct. So the next one is for Deer Waters Phase 4. This was originally approved in conjunction or recommended by the Planning Commission and approved in conjunction with Phase 3. And that received final plat approval on April 8th of 2021. And so Phase 3 was recorded in time, and that is underway, but Phase 4 was delayed. And so since more than 6 months has passed, again, you can't, pursuant to the code, you can't request the extension, but rather you have to bring the project back for preliminary and final recommendation by Planning Commission and approval by Town Council. And so that is also what is being requested by the developer, Nate Brockbank, for Deer Waters Phase 4. Again, there are no changes proposed for this project, no changes proposed in terms of layout, et cetera. It is subject to the vested code. And so the only note that we wanted to make sure was incorporated into this particular project was that the MDA for Deer Waters requires the dedication of the JSSD parcel upon recordation. And so a portion of that will be incorporated into Shoreline Drive. And so we just need that note added to the plat. But otherwise, we are also recommending that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the Town Council. And I know that Ryan and Dylan are on if there are any engineering issues that I may have missed. And Nate, again, is the applicant.
Okay, so and just to summarize the time, it's basically nothing in this has changed since the last time we approved it at all, correct?
That's correct. Nothing has changed.
Okay, thank you. All right, that being said, do any of the commissioners have any questions for anybody?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I remember talking about Nate was going to put in a park. Does that need to be on the plat or no, or what's up with that?
The park I don't think that the park has to be on the plat, because I think that the agreement was that the applicant, the developer, the HOA would take care of the park and allow public use, and that would be signed accordingly. So it doesn't have to show necessarily on the plat, because it is going to be maintained by the HOA. And that park is going down in that kind of bottom left corner. Yeah. And
Okay,
just
thanks.
for further clarification, that park will have steps that walk down into Lakeview, which is just to the south of this one.
Mhm.
I just had a little observation. Also, it's just a question. It looks like, and it's hard to read the numbers of the road that goes through there. I think that's Deer Bend Way. It looks quite a bit more narrower than Shoreline. Did that have to meet any requirements? I know they already built the road.
It does look more narrow on this plat, and that's something we'll double check. They did agree to build it to our new 26-foot road standard, and we had a little issue there, but that is, I believe, what has been built is our new road standard. I agree with you on the plat. It does look we'll have to
Because
check that on
Shoreline,
the plat.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
I believe Shoreline is a bigger road. The road going in Deer Waters is 26 feet wide, but I believe Shoreline is a wider road than 26 feet.
Well, I live on Shoreline, and I don't think it is.
Really?
Yeah.
The road got built correctly. We'll double check that there's multiple versions of the plat, and we'll make sure that we get the right one signed. But you're right that this may be an old version of the plat on the screen.
Yeah, it almost looks like a path. So it's not too much wider than the driveways. So I just wanted to make sure that was up to snuff. And refresh my memory too. The two are they single homes that are going to be like on the ends? I think it's lot number 60. Wow, what's going on? Oh.
Yeah, so if you remember, there was a couple council members that asked us to reduce some lots.
Okay,
And we had 10 more lots in this development, and we reduced those. And by doing that, we ended up having singles on the two ends. But that was just because we dropped 10 lots off of here, because like I said, a couple council members asked us to do that.
okay. So it's going to be like a townhome, except one half of the attached single family. Will be a
Yes,
half.
exactly. And we did that in Deer Springs also. And you can go down there, and it's being built now. So
I did see that, and I found it a little unusual. It took me aback a little bit. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize, that's how it was going to look. But, I'm glad that you reduced the density. That was important.
yeah, and if you remember, this road was approved at 22 feet, and we bumped it up to 26 feet. So
Deer Bend Way.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's built at 26 feet.
Okay. Well, as long as we can have that accurate on the plat, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, and Ryan, we'll have to look at that, because I think the easement might be bigger on Shoreline. I don't know.
I
But
think the asphalt is less, but we'll have to look at the right of way. So I know for the purposes of tonight, the road we're approving was built to the 26-foot standard, which is what it needed to be. And I know there's lots of versions of the plat around, so we'll make sure the right one gets recorded.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from anybody on the commission? On the council, I should say. Okay, that being said, we'll open this up for public discussion. If there's anybody from the public that has any questions. Okay, there being no questions from the public hearing part of that item number 2 will be closed. And can I get a motion from one of the council members in regard to this?
I'll make a motion that we recommend this Deer Waters Phase 4 as per the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Bruce.
Second,
Does anybody want to second that?
Glynis just seconded.
Okay, then we'll put it to a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Okay, therefore we'll give it a positive recommendation to the town council. Okay, moving on to item number 3. The
Thank
review
you.
and possible record.
Thanks, Nate.
Excuse me? Take
I
care,
just said
Nate.
thank you.
Review-
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Review and possible recommendation to town council regarding subdivision / lot amendment to Hideout Canyon lot number 37.
Okay, Kathleen, if you're controlling the screen, maybe could you go to the 3rd page, just past my report and TO's report, and I'll talk through this a little, but I think it might be helpful for the commission to, take a look at that image right there. Okay, so this is a proposal for a subdivision amendment to Hideout Canyon Phase 1, Lot 37. And what you see here is you can see an existing driveway easement kind of in white that kind of runs north-south. And then what you see in the cross-hatching is what is being proposed. So just keep that in mind as I walk through this. It's right now a single driveway off of Longview Drive that would serve 2 houses. Lot 37 is requesting an individual driveway that would access their property and that would not be connected to the driveway that provides ingress egress to the house just north, lot 36, I think that is. And so the proposal is to eliminate that easement and provide this new one. You can see that there's a little, let me see if I can annotate. This is kind of hard to, oh, I can't. You can see that there's a little back out area right off of Longview Drive that is being requested for ease of backing out of the driveway. As we walked through this with the town, the engineers and others, we would recommend that that not be incorporated as an easement, but rather just the entrance that you see, the larger entrance proposed to the north, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to stop there and ask you if you have any questions about what I just described, since I can't annotate and show you.
Thomas, I just gave you control to my
Oh,
screen,
great.
so
Now I
you
can.
should be able to annotate it.
Okay, thanks. Actually, you know what, Alicia, it's still not allowing me. Hang on.
It says waiting for Thomas Eddington to control your screen. You have to accept something?
Wait. I don't, it's not asking me to accept anything though.
Let me try again.
Okay.
Did it do anything?
I'm sorry, can you send that one more time? Something
Yeah.
did flash on the screen, but it was off in a millisecond. Well, I apologize. It's not letting me take that control.
While you're trying to figure that out, the next lot over, which you think is 36, is that built already? Is the driveway already there or no?
The driveway for lot 36 is there, and I should point out that Andrew Moran, the engineer for this project, is available to answer specific questions. Kathleen, if you could, or Alicia could unmute him just in case. But there is a driveway there. Part of our discussions with the engineer was that if this were going to be a new driveway, we didn't want these two to connect. They should be completely disconnected. And so part of our recommendation would be that that there be a separation of these two easements so that there is no connection down the line that could cause an issue. Andrew, are you able to speak?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So the origin of this is just that we didn't want to have a shared driveway that the two neighbors would have to, argue over who's plowing, and if someone's having a party or a few friends over, their driveway is blocked for the other person. So my original intent was just to expand the existing easement that was platted with the subdivision. That was a driveway for the two lots. But after speaking with Thomas and going over this, it sounds like maybe what we need to do is abandon the original easement and write two new easements, or show two new easements for each of the lots, because that way there's no sharing of any driveway property.
So I have a question. I live just uphill from these lots, and there's a pretty steep drop off from Longview down to this house, unless the house, I guess, it could possibly be being built way up. Hence, I think that's why the original plots showed shared driveways. Second, just comment, there is no issue with plowing. That's taken care of by the HOA in Overlook Village. I believe these lots are part of Overlook Village. So plowing wouldn't be an issue, but it is a hassle. I have a shared driveway, and I totally agree. It's a hassle with, if a neighbor's car is parked there or guests. parking there. So it is a pain. But I guess if you could answer the question about the steepness, is the house being built up higher? How would you handle the steepness of the driveway?
So you're right, it is a downhill lot, and we've done a grading plan showing how the driveway would work. It's not terribly steep to get down to the house, but the garage is kind of on the upper level of the home as it's designed now. So it would be a downhill driveway, but it's not, I think it's only 10% maybe. You know, it's not like a crazy steep driveway coming off of Longview. And then the house, you know, so the garage portion of the house is in that little bump out area of the lot. And then the rest of the house kind of steps down the hill as it's designed now.
Okay. And how do you keep the driveway off the other, on lot 36's property?
Well,
Like it cuts right in front of it.
well, it does cut in front of it a little bit, but if you were to expand the view, you'd see that lot 36's driveway goes quite a bit north of their property, you know, because the downhill lots, you need a longer driveway to get down to the buildable area. Yeah, so that kind of shows you what the existing driveway of lot 36 looks like. And they've got, you know, the portion that actually accesses the garage, you can see is even farther away from where we're proposing to put this driveway for this lot, if that makes sense.
Do you know the actual distance between the two?
Between the two driveways, I think we showed that, Thomas, I think it's 79 feet.
Yep, I think that's the number that's provided. Yeah, 79 or 75.
That's from where they access Longview, correct?
Yeah.
Not from the closest part of where they're near each other.
Oh, no. No, but
You know,
you know, again, that lot 36 has that little back out area type of thing like we were proposing to do, but is not a deal killer. So I think there might be 10 feet from kind of the edge of their back out area to the edge of our driveway. But it would be separated vertically as well, because our driveway would be up in the air compared to where their back out area is.
Andrew, what would be that elevation change from the neighbor to the north and their driveway and this driveway?
Let's see, let me pull up that drawing on my screen so I can see it. So about 8 feet of vertical. So I think we're showing 2 4-foot walls terracing from, you know, the level of their driveway up to the level of our driveway. And that would be 8 foot max. That's the worst case. I think it ranges probably from 4 to 8.
Just so I'm clear, the 2 dark lines there, I mean, is that the driveway?
Those are the
seem like
retaining
it.
walls.
Ah, that's the retaining wall. And again, so then on the right, what was proposed, the retaining wall, to the back out area too.
Correct.
How
But the
high would the retaining walls be?
The retaining walls in the back out area are again 4 feet max, and then the retaining walls along this proposed driveway are 4 feet max, but there's 2 of them. So there's about 8 feet of vertical separation from the driveway down to the existing grade. And that's just a result of the road being quite a bit higher than,
And would you be maintaining the retaining walls? If they needed maintaining or something cracking, or that would be your responsibility, correct? Or
I'm not familiar enough with the building code and the CC&Rs for the hideout, where it's kind of it's a different thing than I'm used to, where you have a limited common area for the driveway rather than just owning the property. The property boundary is set back from the road a ways. So yeah, I'm not sure. Thomas, do you know what the?
Well,
I don't know what the,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, I don't know what the answer is, but I think that let's make it a condition, if this is to go forward, that be articulated who maintains it.
I think that's right. And I think that what we would do is probably slightly expand the access easement to include the retaining wall. So that becomes limited common, and make it a condition that the owner of lot 37 maintain.
Yeah.
So can I say some things? I think as the engineer, I think the engineer needs to get with me. I see some things that probably need to get changed engineering wise on this. And I know you guys have hit a couple of this, which is again, retaining walls, the angle of the driveway doesn't match parallel to Longview Drive. We got 10-degree slopes. I mean, the homeowner needs to be aware that 10-degree slope is pretty excessive in the winter. And it is hard to sometimes make a turn and radius turn to get up your driveway. So I think I would like to, Thomas and Andrew, if you're still there, I think I'd like to take a little bit of a closer look at this before we do an approval on this, because it's in the trail easement, like you mentioned, and there's some retaining wall issues. And I think I don't think I see anything glaring that says no, but there, I don't see enough of information on this in regards to site visibility triangles. I mean, there might be a reason why there was a shared driveway all the way down between those two lots. The speeds on Longview, things like that. Andrew, have you looked at that in regards to site visibility triangles for both driveways with this new entrance?
Yeah, the site visibility is fine. We have put a lot of thought into this, and
okay, well, it's
we
not
surveyed the property, and
yeah. And so here's my thing, it's not showing on the plan. And so as an engineer, we need to show that on the plan so we can say, okay, even though you have a 8-foot retaining wall, is the site visibility triangle for the existing lot 36 and the proposed for new lot 37, how does it interact with each other? So that's what I'm saying. I think I'd like to see it on the plans, just so you can have a better feeling of it.
The only place where you're worried about a visibility triangle is where you're pulling out right onto Longview, and the driveway is at the same grade as Longview as you get onto the curb and gutter. So there's no retaining walls that would be anywhere near your site visibility triangles.
Okay. And again, so that's what I'm saying. Things like that need to be shown on the drawing. And I know we don't have anything on our code like that yet. We will. But we need to have stuff like that shown, just to be, so everything's been looked at from an engineering safety standpoint, et cetera. So I think that would be a good thing to see. And again, I think, in regards to the easement, like you guys had mentioned, and who's going to maintain the wall, et cetera, because like I say, those are probably the biggest things that I see. And then again, you're cutting the curb and gutter, and you're bringing in extra water. Have you even looked at, I know it's not a lot of extra pavement that we're putting in, but that's going somewhere down into our system. And how much extra water is that? And I mean, there's just a bunch of things that, I think, I know Ryan's done a quick cursory look, or Ryan and Thomas have done a great job looking at this. I shouldn't have said cursory, I apologize. But I think from my end, I think there's some other questions that I would like to have resolved before moving forward.
Well, could you approve it with conditions rather than like pushing it off to another planning commission meeting? Is that an option?
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that, I don't think. But again, I think I think the planning commission would probably need to see the final version of what has been proposed, et cetera, if any changes that may come out of it.
And I also think that two things. One, in Overlook Village, the HOA has responsibility for all exterior maintenance, which would include driveways, snow plowing, probably retaining walls, maintenance to the, staining and whatnot to the exterior of the house. So I think it would be prudent to have a member of the HOA be able, I don't know if you've contacted them, if they were noticed about this meeting specifically, and as well as Ed and Sarah, the owners of Lot 36. I think they should have been notified and have at least the opportunity to make a comment here, since this is somewhat impinging on their property as well.
And Bruce, you're making me happy every time. Now you've said it twice. You've said that the HOA will snowplow Longview Drive, so I'm going to run with that.
That's not what I said, Tim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's why I apologize.
The individual lots are taken care of.
Oh, yes. That's correct. That's correct.
Are there any other questions from anybody on the planning commission? Okay, there being none, we will open this up for public comment. Okay, there being no comment, public comment. Does anybody on the commission like to make a motion to either give a positive, negative, or negative referral, or approve it based on certain conditions, or put it over until we can see the conditions that were raised on the drawings?
My perspective is I think we need to push this out and give notice to Lot 36 as well as the HOA. I don't think we're ready to make a recommendation. So I don't know if I have to make a motion for that, or if there's other commissioners that want
I
to
believe
make.
you can make a motion to adjourn this till next month's meeting based upon answers to the questions that were raised and notifying other aggrieved parties.
And Bruce, if I could just add to that, maybe if that is what you intend to do, maybe continue the public hearing to the next meeting, because I think this was noticed as a public hearing.
Yes, I think we would have to, and specifically invite the owners of Lot 36 and the HOA to make sure that it doesn't slip past them.
Well, can I just add a quick something? This is Andrew here. I know the HOA and the DRC are both aware of this project, and it was my understanding that they wanted us to get approval from you prior to them looking at it or approving it. So
Has that been entered into the public record anywhere? Is there a written letter or something that we can enter into the public record, or we can't just take your word for that?
Boy, I'd have to dig through some emails and try to see where that all came from. But that was my understanding, that you guys were the first step in getting approval through you. And then after that, we would go to HOA, DRC.
I mean, if you guys continue it to the next meeting, then staff can make sure that the HOA and the neighbors are notified of the hearing if they want to come or not. And at least at that point, you'll know that they've been notified, especially in light of the other changes that you'd like to see.
How do neighbors get notified for these meetings? I mean, isn't, do you send out public notice for whatever's on the meeting for this agenda, or?
It's not, we don't send courtesy notices to neighbors like
Oh,
other,
okay.
from other jurisdictions you might be familiar with.
Yeah,
So it's just noticed on the public notice website and all that, but
so if you're not really paying attention, you wouldn't notice that your neighbor was applying for a new driveway.
That's right.
right. And maybe the
Gotcha.
thing that we would wanna, that maybe we will change that in our code, because it does seem like an easy thing to do.
Yeah, in other places I've lived, you had to do, anybody within
50.
50 feet, 100 feet, 200
100
feet,
feet, yeah.
whatever the code might be. Doesn't have to be just neighbors. It could be people, a couple houses away, depending on how many feet you made.
Yeah.
And you had the person applying for the variance or whatever it might be called would have to send legal notices out to those people.
Right. That's what I thought the case was here, but
Yeah.
I was mistaken.
Yeah, well, I just think that's pretty important, considering it looks like it's going to impact them also. And for them to be aware this is happening, I think, is very important. And also the retaining walls, with our, history of retaining walls, I really feel like that we need to clarify who's going to be maintaining that, who's going to be responsible. Because, if we're changing this because, you'd like to have your own driveway, personally, I don't think the other residents in the entire community should be responsible for maintaining your retaining wall.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty important.
I agree. And yeah, logically, I would say it makes sense for each individual lot and homeowner to maintain their own retaining walls. But this is a different type of plat on these lots here that are where you don't own everything up to the road.
Correct, yeah. And lot 36, those people may not even mind. I mean, but I think they really need to be made aware, and to say, hey, listen, this is what's happening. This is what we're proposing. And if you have any input.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So should we make a motion to table this until the next meeting?
I believe that's what Bruce did.
Yeah, okay.
To continue to the
Correct,
next
Bruce?
meeting,
Am
to
I
continue
correct,
the
Bruce?
public hearing.
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you. Do I get anybody to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, then we'll take a vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Glynis?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. Okay, thank you, folks. Moving on to item number 4. Review and possible recommendation to town council regarding subdivision lot amendment to Hideout Canyon Lot R3.
Okay. Alicia, you may want to do the same thing here. Go to that, I think, third page. There you go. Okay, so this is again, a second proposal for an amendment to the subdivision. This one's actually on Reflection Ridge for Hideout Canyon Phase 8. And what is being requested is that kind of a little bit of a similar situation, but you can see in the middle of this particular lot R3, there is an existing easement, not what's crosshatched, not what is crosshatched, but rather what is white there. That is the existing driveway easement for this house. They are requesting an amendment that would put the driveway off to the side of the house because the garage would be located on the side and not centered on this particular house, typical of most houses. So this is simply a request to move that driveway easement to the north. It would maintain the same width, and it would not impact any other components to this lot. There are a couple of interesting notes with regard to this lot, and part of which, or to this subdivision, and I'll have Ryan or Dylan explain that in a little bit more detail. But in short, the road that was built across the street, and Alicia, if that's you, could you go to the next image, actually? The road that was built as part of this Reflection Ridge and Reflection Lane connection was actually not built in the location that it was originally proposed to be built on per the subdivision. So as you can see, Andrew is also the engineer on this particular application. As you can see, he's illustrated where Reflection Lane has been built, and it has been built through lot 6. And so our recommendation would be that we support the movement of the driveway to the north for R3. It's a solid recommendation given the proposed design of the house. The challenge is that this subdivision also should be corrected to reflect where Reflection Lane has been built, unless it were proposed to be moved, but it is not currently in compliance with the existing Hideout Canyon Phase 8 subdivision. Ryan, did you want to elaborate on that a little bit? I know you had some input.
I guess I'm conflicted here. I understand the desire to move the road, their driveway, and I don't know that I have any issues with the moving of the driveway, but I do have a problem approving a plat amendment to fix the driveway and not address the elephant in the room, meaning all the other things that are wrong with this plat. And so I'm conflicted because it's not really our three lot owners that are responsible for the other things, but I really can't sign a plat that has, you know, all these other problems on it. And so I believe that we really need to fix all of these issues prior to moving forward. And there's all these issues and some others, one being that the sewer was never completed to this development. And so before we can allow homes to be built, the sewer has to be finished.
And Ryan, was there an issue with either the hammerhead or cul-de-sac that was constructed and or proposed? One was proposed, a different was built, is that right?
Yeah, so you can see on the plot here, it was proposed as a cul-de-sac, which I believe would be our preference, but what they built was part of a hammerhead. And so what is built here doesn't meet, you know, what's shown on the plot and what is built on the ground are two different things. And then namely, one of the biggest issues is that Reflection Lane cuts through lot 6 and makes it pretty much, on lot 6, pretty much unusable. But then also on this plot, there really is no right of way for that portion of Reflection Lane, which is a fairly significant issue.
Can I ask a question, Ryan? This is Andrew again.
Yes.
So how did Reflection Lane get built? Because I mean, there's that portion of the road that isn't part of that next Phase 8A or Phase 8. So I don't know that I understand why you want the plat to fix all the problems, but there's this no man's land where it's not part of either subdivision. How did did the developer just put this road in because he wanted to, or is there some other plat that's being reviewed that shows Reflection Lane connecting?
In my research, which I'm sure is not complete, but from what I've been able to find, the developer just put the road in.
Nice.
Who is the developer?
Mustang.
So can I ask, do we know where the driveways are on the rest of the lots?
That's what I'm like, yeah.
I think they're all centered on each lot, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
I think you're right.
And why are lots R1 through R5 little squares, and on the other side, lot 3, 4, 5, 6 big?
That's another question I do not know the answer to.
I don't know the answer to that question either. This plat preceded any of us here. I'm not sure why they did that.
Are these all single family?
Yes.
So it could be that maybe as we look at maybe additional amendments to this subdivision, there's a couple of things. I think it's logical to have the driveway generally on the side of the house, not centered in the house. Most people have the garage typically on one side or the other. So maybe we look at some of the others. And to Ryan's point, we try to fix lot 6 and note the right of way so that any proposed plat would meet what is, would conform to what is on the ground. Assuming that's what we want.
Can we make them get rid of the road?
I think the road is there.
No, I know, but
There are homes down there.
The road is there and there's homes below. So no, I don't think we can make the road go away.
we can't make the road go away. Okay,
Well,
got that.
Whether or not we can, I don't know that we should, since there's homes down there. And to Andrew's point about it going through this subdivision and then through some no man's land and then into the next parcel, I think all we can require is that this plat be corrected. I don't know that we can make these guys fix all of the problems in the town, although I would love that if they would. I've got a long list. But I think if we could get this plat fixed, that would at least be one step in the right direction. And then we have this little no man's land stretch to fix on another day.
Is this being brought up because somebody wants to build on that lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess another question would be, is it possible? I mean, these lots R1, R2, R3 look so small that they almost look like that's the building as opposed to the actual lot, or is it the building? Could the building be so small enough to where that driveway could come into the left side or the right side of the building? It's very difficult here to tell, and like Rachel said, I think there should be, for those lots R1, R2, R3, however many there are, R5, if we're going to see a driveway on one, we should see where they're planned to be on all. It should be consistent.
So I can tell you, I'm looking at the current plat for that whole phase 8, and there are 6 lots that are the squares detached from the road, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And 5 of those 6 have the driveway coming into the middle of the building pad. And I think the intent of the building pad is that the house can take up basically the whole building pad, and then you just have an easement or a limited common area that gets you from your house, which takes up your whole lot, to the road right of way.
It wouldn't be zoned differently, would it? That side of the road? That's
No,
why
it's not. It's all the same zoning.
all the same zoning. Okay.
Yes.
It is just odd. I do agree that there's squares. Huh.
Yeah, we couldn't
Andrew,
find,
are
I did some
you
research. I
able-
couldn't find any reasoning for that. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering if we could I was just trying right now to pull up the original map. I was actually wondering if this was one of the plats that preceded the town. That's possible. I don't know what year it was recorded.
It looks like it was recorded in 2009.
And that's
Right around,
Hideout became Hideout in 2010.
right.
So are these all intended to be custom homes?
Hmm.
Do we know?
Are they custom homes? What's the question?
Yeah, are they intended to be custom? I mean, there's not one builder already established for these.
No, I think it's individual lot owners with their own builders as
Okay.
they choose.
Is there any way we can separate the movement of the driveway from the rest of the issues.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because I don't see any reason why we shouldn't let that driveway move. None whatsoever.
Right.
But these other issues are separate. Is there a way we can separate them?
Well, and if we allow one to move, then are we gonna be brought back every single one? It seems like we should kind of ask the question of what's really supposed to be there. How should it look?
Well, Thomas, I think you would agree with me that the driveway should be on one side or the other of a lot, just because that's how a house generally gets
Absolutely.
built.
There's no doubt. We completely agree with
Yeah.
that. And I think that should generally be the case for these pods. The challenge is that if we were to move forward with a positive recommendation for that, which I'm not opposed to, Ryan would have to be comfortable signing the amended plat, knowing that the plat he is signing is still not fully
Yeah.
correct.
I think it's cleaner if I understand, yeah, I also would not feel very comfortable signing a plat where
as
I
well.
know that what's depicted isn't what's on the ground.
Yeah.
So, and it does have impact. It's not like this is just something off on the side. This has to be on the, this is an integral part of the entire plat. So it seems like a broader plat amendment would be required so that we can address these issues.
Are any of these lots built out
No,
currently?
no.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
No, there's only the one house down at the bottom of Reflection Lane that's in the whole from top to bottom here. The rest
There
are
are
all.
there's no homes currently on Reflection Ridge, and we have a hold on building permits because we don't have all the utilities complete. The sewer lines don't go anywhere yet.
And also, isn't there a large power line that goes right down there too? That is not shown on this plat.
Power line.
Well, I think it's below. It's below here.
You think
Well,
it's below?
Yeah.
It cuts across over top of Reflection Lane.
Yeah. So it's pretty large. Yeah, I thought it was right around where it turned onto Reflection Lane, but it's been a while since.
I believe it's pretty close to the lot lines there, below lot 3, 4, 5, and 6. It kind of runs in that same direction as that westerly lot line.
Yeah, it cuts across Reflection Lane, probably right where that curve is.
So maybe it's in the easement for the power line.
There is a big power line easement shown on the plat for this that goes kind of along, like you were saying, along the back of lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it turns kind of across 8 and 9. And it says that is to be relocated.
The power line's going to be relocated, or the lots are going to be relocated?
The power line.
Really?
That's what the plat says.
I'd love that because I look at it from my house.
That's a pretty big power line. They relocated, they should put it underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to. So right now you're saying that there's really no sewer down there to even for lot R3 to be able to be built.
Correct. The sewer stops about lot 7 and then doesn't go down the hill any further. So there's a sewer line on Reflection Ridge, around the road, but then it stops and doesn't actually connect to the sewer network. So it's,
So they
last
can't
time I
build
was there,
anyway.
it just had about 6 feet of water standing in it.
Mm,
So
So that-
lot R3 can't build anyway at this point.
Correct. We need to get the utilities complete.
is there a plan in place to complete those utilities?
I have reached out to the developer multiple times and let them know there's a problem. And then asked why they haven't finished, but beyond that, no.
So Ryan, that
Well,
house down on whatever it is, lot 4 or 5 down on Reflection Lane has no hookup to sewer?
The Reflection Lane has a different sewer. That is hooked up to our sewer system. Reflection Ridge doesn't connect. The sewer on Reflection Ridge does not connect to Reflection Lane.
Oh, I see.
Then I guess it's kind of a moot point. If we approve this, it still doesn't go anywhere. So I move that we, do we have to listen to,
Public.
does anybody else have to input, or can I make a motion?
I think
Well, we
we-
have to open it for public hearing.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And just one correction, I'm just looking at the plat, and it was under, it must have been one of the first plats done by the town of Hideout, because it was signed by the mayor and town clerk. So, oh, it looks like Joe Tesh was the attorney.
Okay.
So anyway, it was done under Hideout, but it must have just been when it was a nascent town.
If our utility map will help, I can share that, but basically the sewer goes down Reflection Ridge and then stops. And then there's no sewer in Reflection Lane until somewhere about the middle of lot 9, it picks up and continues down the hill.
That makes no sense.
No,
Well, there's nothing there, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions from anybody on the commission? Or anyone else? If not, that being the case, then we'll open it up for public comment.
I don't see anybody yet, Tony. Give me one
Okay,
second.
if there being no public comment, would anybody like to make a motion, Glynis?
Sure. I move that we don't approve moving the poor driveway until the plat is updated to reflect what is on the ground.
Instead of not approving the plat, do you want to change the motion to just table this until the plat, the issues with the plat
So maybe
are
continue
satisfied?
continue to a subsequent meeting and give us time to work out some of the additional amendments that may be required.
Yes.
Yeah, we
That
could
sounds
continue
good.
it to a date uncertain. Renotice it
Mhm.
when it's time.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody want to second that?
I will.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, Glynis,
Yes.
your vote?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. So then this will be tabled, put over till a time to be determined once the issues with the plat are rectified. Okay. And now we're on to the last item on the agenda, which is the review and possible recommendation to the town council regarding the parks, open space and trails plan.
All right, I'll give you guys a quick overview. You guys took a look at the Parks, Open Space and Trail Master Plan at the last meeting, and we wanted to bring it back for a formal public hearing because it is our recommendation that if you approve and recommend favorably to the council, we would ask council to basically incorporate this document as part of the general plan so that we could depend on this as the parks, open space, and trail component of the general plan. And so that is why this is being brought back to you for a public hearing. Basically, there were a couple of questions at the last meeting with regard to 248, specifically noting the need for pedestrian access at either traffic lights or possible underpasses or overpasses in the future. That has been incorporated into the document. The other request was that the parks and park space and open space that has been approved by the Planning Commission and the Town Council over the past year and a half be incorporated as well. So the park, for example, that is part of Deer Waters Phase 4, the parks that are incorporated into Lakeview, the amphitheater and park in Deer Springs, all of those were noted as part of the park system because the town does have public access to those, even though they are maintained by the HOA. So all of that was incorporated into the document. And so if you have any specific questions, I'll walk through it. I know we went through it in detail at the last meeting, but any questions, I'm here to answer.
It's Bruce Thomas. One question on maintenance for the existing trails. Are they all as HOA maintained as well?
Right now, all of the trails are HOA maintained. None have been turned over to the town yet.
Okay. I got a letter from a resident and complaining about, I think it's the Sure Thing Trail that goes down into Dead Man's Gulch. Two things. One is there's a big, huge piece of plywood that's been there for quite a while that the construction folks put to close the trail. There's an old fence that's lying there. It just looks like, you know, somebody's using it as a junkyard, essentially. So I wondered if we could get somebody to clean that up. That was the resident's request. And in addition, now that they've piled a whole bunch of rocks down in the bottom, there's no outlet for that trail. So you can go down it, but you can't go anywhere. You got to just turn around and come back up it. So with all the dirt, you know, they're now building a second mesa. But in addition, they've gone to that flat part where Dead Man's Gulch comes out, and they've piled dump truck after dump truck of rock in there. So there's no trail anymore.
Okay.
I was there today and we with my dogs, and we did kind of do a little path between the rocks.
Mhm.
It's a little treacherous, but we did get through.
Okay,
So-
now we
I
can.
actually was there last
developer.
week too, and my question actually is, I was told that it was GCD that built it and maintained it or whatever. So is that actually part of which HOA is that actually part of then?
That's part of Shoreline.
But
And so we can work with
is it
GCD.
Shoreline, which Shoreline?
That would be, hang on.
They're all one.
Well, we have different HOA.
No, yeah,
I believe that's going to be that shoreline remaining. It's one of those future phase areas.
Yeah, it's
So it's
not,
like Shoreline 4 that's not built yet?
it's 4 or 5. It's down the road a little bit. So yeah, but we can work with the developer. We can work with GCD to clean that up and make sure that there's either access, or if we need to prevent access for safety reasons while they're doing some of the construction and earth moving down there, we can certainly ask them to put something better at the entranceway.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that part of the public
No, that's
record
fine.
since one of the residents was pretty adamant about it.
And I agree. I think it's pretty ugly that that fence has been there from the beginning and now that plywood. So maybe GCD could take care of that.
I'll reach out to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Other than that, I think Post has done a great job with this document, and that's the only other comment I have.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we, you didn't mention, Thomas, that if we approve this and it gets, or we recommend that town council approve it, that then we can use this document to help us get grants and move forward with some of the projects.
Yep, that's a good point of clarification. If it's approved as a public document, part of the general plan, in essence, you're right. We'll use this for grant applications down the road. Absolutely.
Do any of the other commissioners have any questions regarding this?
So I noticed in the plan, there's some data, just like statistics and things. How often or how does that go about being updated?
You know, we say with any plan, ideally you update them, if not annually, biannually, every other year, right? And so I think that would be our intent, to probably look at this annually. That would be our recommendation. At worst, every 2 years. So hopefully the short answer is annually.
Does that need to be written in?
We don't have to dedicate a specific timeline for that, but when we do look at it, let's say it is on an annual basis, and the post committee makes recommendations, whether that's data changes or additional parks or trails might be located, they would need to bring that back to you all for, again, a recommendation to the town council for a vote. So every time we touch it, we would need to bring it back to both entities.
Okay, thanks.
And are you still looking for post members? I have on the committee.
Absolutely. If
I know
post
somebody
committee is
that I'd
open.
like to try to talk into joining the post committee.
That's great. We had a meeting last night and we had some interesting input from the Division of Wildlife, et cetera, regarding deer corridors, et cetera, what's happening on 248. And so it was an informative meeting. And so there were, we had, I think, one new member on the committee that showed up last night. So it is a pretty solid committee, but new members are always welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Glynis, this is Kathleen. Feel free to just let me know who's interested, and I will be sure to invite them to our future meetings and reach out.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
I
haven't cornered him yet, but
okay. Just let me know if there's anything I can do to, get him or her on our communications.
Okay, we'll do.
That's gotta be an appearance.
And I had one question here on, it was priority number 3, and there was a map. I'm actually looking at it on my phone, with some lighted intersection with crosswalk. And also by Tuhey and possibly another in front of Hideout, the main entrance of Hideout. Yes, it's page, keep going, it's priority 3. Well, my question is, are these traffic lights already approved right there?
These are traffic lights that have been discussed with the town and the mayor with in coordination with UDOT. And so future recommended lights would be at these locations as recommended by UDOT right now. We don't have a timeline for that, but these would be their recommended locations.
Wow.
That was an access agreement that the town and UDOT negotiated a few years ago. But as Thomas pointed out, there's no date certain for any of that. It's just the grand plan someday.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I am, unless it's absolutely needed, like the one up by Black Rock, I really don't want to see traffic lights unless we really need them.
Yeah, and Ryan's right. One other thing to add, they're usually dictated by factors such as safety issues, whether crashes dictate the need for a light, or the amount of traffic coming out of residential subdivisions. So it's unfortunately one of those things that we can't really stop or dictate. We can give them our wishes, but it's all based on data and studies that when they come up with their lights and where they're going to put them.
Yeah, well, and I know the Black Rock one was initiated by residents up there, not by UDOT. So it was kind of like the squeaky wheel, and I agree. I really like that light now. I think it's a good thing up there, but you know, that was totally, as far as I know, initiated by residents there. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Any of the commissioners? Okay, that being said, we'll open this up for public comment. Okay, there being no public comment, would someone like to make a recommendation?
That's right.
I move that we recommend the post document to the town council for approval.
I second.
You mean a positive recommendation?
Yes, yes.
Does anybody second that?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll put it to a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Tony's a yes. And last but not least, excuse me for a second.
You all right, Tony?
Well, went down the wrong pipe. And Rachel, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
folks.
That's okay. Yes.
Okay, that being said, we'll make a positive recommendation of this to the planning, to the town council. That being said, I don't believe there is any other further business. Thomas, am I correct in that?
You are correct.
Okay. Thank you all for participating, and meeting is adjourned, and I guess we'll see you all next
Do we
month.
need a
Hopefully
motion?
one day it'll actually
Do we need
be
a
in
motion?
person.
Excuse me, do we need a motion to
Oh, yes, I'm
adjourn?
sorry. Thank you. Yes, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll
move
make a
that we
motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Okay. Donna,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Okay, thank you, folks, and see you all next month. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thanks.
Happy
Have a good
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yes.
Thanksgiving.